Hey guys! Today we're diving into one of the weirdest, grossest, and sometimes strangely nostalgic experiences. What's the worst meal you were regularly served and forced to eat as a kid? Trust me, some of these are just ... tragic. We're talking microwaved monstrosities. School lunch horror stories, and those family specialties that still haunt your dreams. Get ready for a roller coaster of flavors no child ever asked for. Before we jump in, where are you watching from? Let us know your city in the comments. If you've ever had something similar happen to you, we want to hear your story too. All right, let's get into it. I wish I were kidding when I say that, for a solid year of my childhood, I was regularly fed bologna slices soaked in warm milk. That was dinner. Not even a sandwich, just a floppy piece of processed meat, while drifting like a sad little life raft in a bowl of slightly warmed 2% milk. I still don't know if this was some experimental cuisine or if my mom had a grudge against the concept of flavor. We weren't poor, like not wealthy, but not at the Matin milk soup level of poverty either. But my mom had this very specific set of beliefs about food. She was obsessed with digestibility. Anything that was too cold, too spicy, or too textured. Out, but warm, soft, bland things. Oh baby, that was peak nutrition. So out came the core meal rotation. Steamed celery, boiled apple slices with cinnamon, no sugar, and of course, bologna milk soup. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, looking down into this bowl, watching the edges of the bologna curl up like it was trying to escape. I'd poke it with my spoon, and it'd just bounce back, slick and floppy, like a creature with no soul. My sister and I would make up stories about the meat boats trying to flee the dairy ocean just to stay sane. My dad never had to eat it. He worked late, got leftovers, or made himself a sandwich. But for us, that was dinner. No arguments. No alternatives. If we refused, she'd just say, "Then you're not hungry," which meant yes. I ate the bologna milk. To this day, I can't walk past the deli section without gagging a little. I don't care if you hand me a $50 charcuterie board, I am not eating bologna. Ever again. Okay, that one was pretty rough. But the next one, it involves a school lunch so weird I still wonder if it was a psychological experiment. Let's talk about green hot dogs and government cheese. So picture this. It's 2004. I'm in 5th grade. And the cafeteria at my public elementary school was like this weird liminal space between nourishment and psychological warfare. Now, most kids dreaded pizza day because the crust was basically cardboard and the cheese slid off in one greasy sheet. But for me, hot dog day was the true terror. Because every Wednesday, without fail, they served these. Green hot dogs. Not fully green, just green tinges. Like someone had taken a regular hot dog and rubbed it lightly with a Crayola highlighter. Sometimes it was at the ends, other times a light green haze in the middle, and you'd bite into one, and the texture was like wet chalk wrapped in a balloon. I remember holding one up to the light like I was Indiana Jones trying to decipher ancient writing. The lunch lady, Miss Carroll, would just shrug and say, "It's the nitrates." Perfectly normal, ma'am. What? We weren't allowed to bring our own lunch as school policy? Don't ask me why. Maybe they were worried about kids sharing peanut butter or trading Pop-Tarts like prison contraband. So we ate what we were given, every week, even if it looked like it had been fished out of the Chernobyl reactor core. To make it worse, the hot dogs always came with this weird slab of cheese, government cheese, they called it, and then left under a heat lamp until it developed a thin plastic crust. You couldn't chew it, didn't just stuck to the roof of your mouth like emotional trauma. We all had our ways of coping. One kid would peel the green layer off his hot dog like a banana. Another used the cheese as a weapon, flinging it at the walls like some sticky frisbee. I once tried to hide mine in my sock and got sent to detention when the cheese fell out mid-recess. Looking back, I think the school got these meals on some kind of discounted bulk government program. You know, those industrial food supplies meant for emergency shelters and military rations. Except we weren't in a disaster, we were just kids trying to survive Wednesday lunch. Sometimes I wonder if anyone else from that school ever had the guts to ask where those hot dogs came from. I didn't. I was afraid of the answer. Alright, so we've had bologna soup and radioactive cafeteria cuisine. But let's switch gears to a slightly more confusing dish, because up next, my grandma's grape spaghetti surprise. Yeah, you heard that right. My grandma was an amazing woman. Fierce, loving, sharp as a tack, but when it came to food, let's just say she had quirks. And no dish better represents that than her signature, grape spaghetti surprise. At its core, it was supposed to be spaghetti with a twist. But that twist was that she replaced tomato sauce with grape jelly. Not like mixed in, no. She'd literally melt a full jar of grape jelly in a saucepan, thin it out with warm water and margarine, and then pour it over dry spaghetti noodles. No salt, no meat, no garlic. It's just sweet purple noodles sliding around like they'd been cursed by a Willy Wonka reject. She'd say, "Isn't it just delightful?" We'd nod, like hostages. Yum. To her credit, she really thought it was fancy. She even served it in glass baking dishes with parsley on tapas, if a sprinkle of green would suddenly disguise the fact that we were eating PB&J pasta minus the PB. The thing is, we were never allowed to not eat it. It was disrespectful. So every family gathering, birthdays, holidays, Arbor Day, if she was feeling spicy, we got the grape spaghetti surprise, even when we begged for lasagna, even when we offered to cook instead. And look, maybe she genuinely thought she was a culinary pioneer. I once found a page in her old 70s era cookbook that had a handwritten note. Try grape version, with a smiley face. So maybe it was her original creation, which somehow makes it worse. To this day, the smell of warm Welch's jelly makes my stomach turn. And God help me if I ever find it next to pasta again. Coming up next, a dish that should have been good because it involved pancakes, but got ruined by a single terrifying ingredient: mustard. Let's talk about breakfast night at Dad's. So when I was a kid, my parents were divorced, which meant every other weekend I got to stay at my dad's house. And while my mom was all about balance and vegetables, my dad had a very different philosophy. Anything can be dinner if you believe hard enough. One night, he decided we were going to have breakfast for dinner, which honestly sounded amazing. Pancakes, bacon, syrup, classic. But then he walked into the living room holding a plate of mustard pancakes like it was totally normal. I stared at them in silence for a full 10 seconds. They looked like regular pancakes, sure, but they smelled tangy, sharp, wrong. "Did you put mustard in these?" "Yup," he said cheerfully. Gives him a kick. A kick. "Sir, these are pancakes, not buffalo wings." But I was like 9, so I sat down and gave it a shot. And I wish I was exaggerating when I say that the moment it hit my tongue, my soul left my body. It was like eating a rubbery sponge soaked in yellow mustard and regret. The worst part? He didn't just put mustard on them. He had squirted it into the batter, like it was vanilla extract. There were streaks of yellow running through the pancake like crime scene evidence. To top it off, he gave me maple syrup to pour on top. Mustard and syrup. The combination tasted like betrayal, like being tricked by a parent you trusted. I looked at him like, "Why would you do this?" And he just shrugged and said, "I saw a guy do it on a cooking show. Said it brings out the flavor of." What regret? Anyway, I choked down half of one and told him I had a stomachache. After that, I insisted we just order pizza for every future dad weekend. He agreed, but to this day, if I even smell mustard and syrup in the same room, I get flashbacks. Okay, so mustard pancakes are a crime against breakfast. But let's talk about another innovative dish from a well-meaning adult. Chicken Jell-O casserole. And no, I'm not okay. So this one came courtesy of my best friend's mom growing up. I used to love sleeping over at their place until dinner rolled around. She was a big fan of vintage cookbooks. You know, the kind from the 1950s that thought gelatin was a food group. So one night, she told us she was making her special casserole that her mother used to make. I was curious, until I saw the mold. Yes, a literal Jell-O mold. Filled with shredded chicken, green peas, and sliced olives, all suspended in this weird, cloudy lemon-flavored gelatin like a sci-fi lab specimen. I asked her what it was called, and she said, "All Proud Chicken Aspic." Aspic, for the blessedly uninitiated, is a dish where you take meat or vegetables and suspend them in gelatin made from stock. It's supposed to be savory. But hers wasn't stock, it was actual lemon Jell-O. Sweet chicken, lemon, peas. My body wanted to rebel. She scooped it out with a slotted spoon, plopping it onto our plates. The gelatin wobbled like it was alive. peas looked like green eyes peering through fog. And the smell? Picture a rotisserie chicken marinated in a melted popsicle. I took one bite. I felt my soul trying to exit through my nose. My friend whispered, "Just swallow fast," like we were on Fear Factor. We both spent the rest of dinner poking at our plates like archaeologists. Later, her mom asked if we wanted seconds. I almost ran out the door. I swear that dish still haunts me. Like if I ever see a Jell-O mold at a party, I get nervous. And it wasn't even my mom's fault. I was just collateral damage in someone else's culinary nostalgia. That one was deeply upsetting. So let's dial it back just a little with a dish that was technically edible, but psychologically scarring. Let's talk about peanut butter tuna wraps. Yes, that's a thing someone fed me. I was maybe 7 or 8, and my parents had to leave town for a few days, so they hired this teenage neighbor girl to babysit me. She was probably like 16 and definitely going through her I'm different phase, black nail polish. Nose ring carried a copy of The Bell Jar everywhere. Which, okay, cool. But nothing could have prepared me for her idea of a healthy lunch. Day 1, she opens the fridge, pulls out a can of tuna, a jar of peanut butter, and a package of tortillas. I'm sitting there on the bar stool watching her mix the tuna and peanut butter in a bowl like she's summoning a demon. I thought it was a joke, or a dare. But no, she seriously spread this tan-colored goop onto a tortilla, rolled it up and handed it to me like it was a PB&J. "Protein bomb," she said. "Super good for you." I just stared at it, waiting for the hidden camera crew to jump out. Now, I like peanut butter. I even like tuna. But together, that was like eating a fishy oil spill with the consistency of wet drywall. The smell was horrible. The taste, worse. And the texture was gritty from the peanut butter and stringy from the tuna. Every bite got stuck in my teeth and felt like punishment for a crime I didn't commit. I gagged halfway through, but she wouldn't let me throw it out. Said I'd be wasting food, and children in other countries would love this. I wanted to tell her no child, anywhere, ever asked for this cursed wrap. When my parents got home, I told my mom. She looked horrified, asked the babysitter about it. And the babysitter said, completely serious, "It's a thing in Scandinavia." No, it is not. They never hired her again. Years later, I Googled tuna and peanut butter just to see if maybe I was the crazy one. Turns out, a few Reddit threads mention it, but only in the same tone you'd use to describe eating glue as a toddler. So yeah, I stand by it. Culinary war crime. All right, so far we've had bologna soup, green hot dogs, chicken jelly, and tuna peanut butter disaster wraps. But what about the school lunch drink that tasted like chemical warfare? Next up, that time they served milk punch in the cafeteria. This one still feels like a fever dream. Middle school, small town public school. The cafeteria was doing this nutritional shake-up week where they swapped out regular lunch items for supposedly healthier alternatives. Whatever, I wasn't thrilled. But I figured okay, new stuff might be better than the usual prison tray. And came the drinks. They were giving out little cartons labeled milk punch. I should have known from the name alone that nothing good would follow, but I opened it anyway. The smell hit me first, like mint and bananas had a baby and left it in a warm car. I took one sip and almost blacked out. It was thick like cough syrup had been mixed with ranch dressing. It was creamy but tangy, sweet but spicy. My tongue didn't know what to tell my brain. My throat staged a protest. I looked around and saw a bunch of other kids making faces. One girl spat hers into her tray. A boy poured his into a flower pot and killed the plant instantly. Okay, and that might be exaggerated, but that plant did die within a week. Turns out, this milk punch was a pilot nutrition program sponsored by some state food science group. It was supposed to be a high-protein, vitamin-rich, dairy-based energy drink for kids.
Ow.
But they forgot that kids don't want their drinks to taste like melted toothpaste and banana pudding gone rogue. They tried to hand it out again the next day. There was a near revolt. The lunch lady had to pull the plug and go back to orange drink, which tasted like tangy cardboard, but at least didn't taste like confusion. To this day, I can't hear the word punch without flinching a little. That one was rough. But our next dish, it was weirdly sweet, slightly soggy, and aggressively unsettling. Time for cornflake lasagna. So this was during the era when my mom got really into health food. And I'm not talking like smoothies and salads. I mean full-on 90s Earth Goddess mode. Tofu and everything. No sugar in the house, an entire pantry full of wheat germ, flaxseed, and things that looked like animal feed. She started reading those old vegetarian cookbooks where everything is beige, and all the pictures are weirdly out of focus. It's when she discovered her DEA cornflake lasagna. At first I thought it was a joke. She said she'd made a meatless lasagna, which I could have handled, till I saw the top layer. It wasn't cheese, it wasn't pasta, it was cornflakes. I blinked at the dish, trying to figure out what I was looking at. The flakes had gone limp in the oven, but still had enough crunch to scrape the roof of your mouth. And instead of marinara, she used a homemade tomato reduction that tasted like warm ketchup mixed with vinegar. The noodles were overcooked rice pasta that had welded together into a single chewy slab, and the cheese layer, not cheese. It was blended cottage cheese and nutritional yeast with a splash of lemon juice for zing. The first bite was an adventure in textures. Soggy cereal flakes, rubbery noodle paste, and this weirdly sour, gritty mush that squished between your teeth like hummus that had turned against you. It was like eating someone's failed science experiment. Mom was so proud. Isn't it hearty? Yeah, Mom, it's hearty. The same way quicksand is hearty. The worst part? She packed it in my lunch the next day. Cold, wrapped in wax paper. I sat at the cafeteria table, unwrapping it like a medieval scroll, and the smell hit everyone like a crime. One of the teachers actually asked if something had spoiled in my bag. Eventually, my dad staged a quiet intervention and offered to cook dinner on alternating nights. Mom didn't take it personally. She just moved on to barley stew and carob cookies, which is another story for another time. But cornflake lasagna? That's seared into my memory. And now every time I see a box of cereal, I flinch just a little. Okay, now let's pivot slightly. We've had gross. We've had weird. But our next entry? This one was terrifying because I legit thought I was being poisoned. Let's talk about the pink meat incident. This happened at a sleepaway camp when I was 10, first time away from home for more than a night. I was nervous already, new bunkmates, bugs, creepy forest noises. But nothing compared to the trauma that came out of that mess hall kitchen. It was day 3. Lunch. We were served what was supposed to be ham and cheese sandwiches. Sounds safe, right? I took one bite and immediately knew something was off. The meat was cold, but slimy. I peeled back the bread and saw that the ham was this unnatural bubblegum pink knot, like deli pink. Glowing, almost neon. It had this slick sheen on it, like it had been sprayed with hairspray. And there were little white spots that looked like crystallized fat or mold. I still don't know. I panicked and went straight to the camp counselor like, hey, this meat is weird. She looked at it, shrugged, and said it's probably just processed. Ma'am, that meat looked like it had come from a radioactive pig that lived near a power plant. Some kids ate it anyway. One kid said it tasted like balloons. Another started dry heaving mid-bite. The kid next to me legit cried. Camp staff ended up pulling the whole tray and serving us peanut butter crackers instead. Later. I overheard one of the cooks talking, and she said the meat had come in vacuum-sealed packs that were a few weeks expired, but still cold to the touch. Great. Love that for us. I called home that night, begging to be picked up. My mom didn't, but I survived. Barely now. I don't eat ham. Ever. It's not even the taste, I just can't trust it. You never know when it's going to go full bubblegum death slice. Okay, deep breath. That was intense. Let's wrap things up with a story that's less scary and more just ... baffling. Because our final story is about a dish that sounded magical, but turned out to be a sad, salty letdown. Let's end on the dessert that was just salted rice. So this happened at a family reunion when I was about 12. We were at my great-aunt's house in the middle of nowhere. Big backyard, picnic tables, cousins I hadn't seen in years. Good vibes all around. Then she announced, all proud and beaming, I made my special dessert, family favorite. Now, look, dessert is a sacred word. You hear special dessert and your brain immediately thinks of cake, cookies, something with frosting, something sugary, something joyful. But no, she brought out this giant glass bowl, like a punch bowl filled with white rice. Just plain white rice. Steam rising off it. No colors, no sauce, no fruit, just rice. I thought maybe it was a side dish, but she started scooping it into little Dixie cups and handing it out like it was ice cream, and that's when it got worse. She took a little salt shaker and sprinkled salt on top of each one and handed it to us with a spoon. "Go ahead," she said, "try it warm." I looked around like, am I on a prank show? But everyone else was just eating it. Like this was fine. Like salted rice was a dessert and not a war crime. I took a bite, hoping maybe there was sugar in there too. There wasn't. It was just warm, soft, plain white rice with a bunch of salt dumped on top. No butter, no cinnamon, just sadness. I asked her, trying to be polite, "Is there something else in it?" She smiled and said, "Nope. That's the magic. It's simple, ma'am. That is not magic. That is underseasoned side dish in a costume." But she kept pushing it, and my dad whispered, "Just eat a few bites so you don't hurt her feelings." So I sat there, eating salty rice out of a paper cup, pretending it was delicious. I think I even said, out loud, just to sell it. To this day, if I tell my cousins want some of Aunt Gladys's famous dessert, we all groan in unison. It's family lore now, a legend, a cursed recipe that will never be recreated, and thank goodness for that. And that wraps up today's walk down memory lane, or should I say memory meal. Honestly, I'm still amazed we all survived childhood food trauma. Between the mustard pancakes, jellied chicken nightmares, and salted dessert rice. It's a wonder any of us grew up with taste buds still intact. If you've got a story like these, some weird meal that haunted your childhood, drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear it. Or maybe just cry with you. And hey, where are you watching from? Let us know your city or country below. We love seeing how far these stories travel. If you had fun hanging out today, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next weird, hilarious, or downright terrifying episode. Thanks for watching. And maybe, just maybe, treat yourself to a real dessert today. You deserve it. See you next time.